Hey everyone, welcome back to the Ceres Podcast. I'm Stelios and this is episode 230. Today I'm joined by Cos Michael, the owner of Pisces in Heswall. Now, in my opinion, this was a really honest, wide-ranging chat about where the fish and chip shop industry is right now. We talked about Cos's history, we talked about leadership, staffing, delivery platforms, how customer habits are changing. But more than that, it's about people, values, and keeping your identity whilst adapting to the current times. Cos stood out to me. He's completely grounded, thoughtful, forward-looking. He speaks with clarity. And that only comes from years in the trade and also working in different sectors. And above all, you can tell he genuinely cares about his product, his team, and his customers and the wider industry. He's one of those operators who quietly lift everyone around them. As you'll hear in this episode, this is a 2-hour episode, we had a lot to sort of talk about, but I think we barely scratched the surface. So we're going to have to get Cos on again because I think there was a lot to go through, and I just think he'd be a great addition as a guest to have back on again. So watch this space, we'll probably have Cos on again before Christmas. This episode of the Ceres Podcast is brought to you by Ceres Natural Gold Batter Mix, our own signature blend made from 2 British flowers, 2 unique raisin agents, and a natural golden colouring for that perfect crisp finish every time. It's made here in the UK using British wheat sourced from Essex and Kent. If you order from ceres.shop, you got free mainland delivery, and guess what? It's also available through your local wholesalers. If you want to supercharge the Ceres Natural Gold Batter Mix and any of our batter mixes, pair it with one of our amazing pre-dusts for that perfect flavour from inside out. You can find out more from ceres.shop. And whilst you're there, check out our free Ceres calculators. Just plug in your cost and your numbers and you'll get instant prices, GPs, portion sizes, margins, no spreadsheets, no guesswork. And if you haven't already seen it, our Facebook group has now had a refresh and it's now become the Ceres Podcast page, which means a cleaner, more focused way for us to share updates, stories and ideas. So you won't see podcast promotions on our Ceres page and vice versa. It just helps us clean up the news. Lastly, make sure you're signed up to the Ceres mailing list and the link will be in the show notes. We've got some amazing competitions coming, some great offers, giveaways running right through from now till Christmas. No spam, just good stuff directly to your inbox. Last year we did a big offer for Black Friday and people were telling me afterwards they didn't get the offer. Well, you only will get it through the Ceres mailing list. So the links will be in the show notes. Now, let's jump into my conversation with Cos Michael. Cos, welcome to the Ceres Podcast.
Morning, Stel. My pleasure, to be honest.
It's my pleasure all, mate. I'm just so glad to have you on. I know we've been planning it for a while, but everyone hears that because we're always planning something for a while, I guess. But it is great to have you on. I did think when I came to your shop not long ago that we spoke so much that we should have just recorded it all.
yeah, would have been good. Yeah. Didn't realise it. Got on. Like house on fire, to be fair.
It's conversation, isn't it? Conversation is so important. Like, I don't remember that we disagreed a lot on anything, but I feel like it wasn't like that type of conversation anyway. I think it was just that mutually, even if we had different opinions, it was fine. Like, that's cool. You know, that's normal. But I can't remember many that were different. I think on the whole, we were quite happy that the forward nature of what you were doing and, you know, and how we were working together. And I think that was quite a positive note. I got to meet your dad properly as well, which was cool.
Oh God!
Well, yeah. He's cool.
Yeah, there he is. He's cool. Yeah, he's he definitely turns heads and casts an opinion, but he's he's long in the tooth, isn't he? So
yeah, they've seen things.
He's got a lot of life experience. Exactly.
You know, like as I'm in my 40s now, like bottom 40s, and I do sort of feel like I've got less patience for stupid things. Maybe not the stupid things I do, because that's allowed, obviously, but the stupid things that other people do. But I could see if you're like in your 60s, how you're probably like 20 years on that and think, fuck me, like what is going on around here?
It's funny you say that, because you do. I think you do get more cynical as you grow older, and like you said, you lose patience for silly things, and because you've seen and done it, and obviously that person might have just still be learning that. And I often get referred to, oh, you're turning into your dad, you're turning into your dad. I'm like, I'll never turn into him because I always see him growing up and I'm like, why is he like that? But slowly and surely you understand.
What's that saying? You don't know you're born. Like, and I guess, you know, or youth is wasted on the young. It makes so much sense because you haven't seen anything. You think life's perfect. And I remember working with my dad early on, and I remember having all these ideas because he knew nothing, apparently. Like, you know, I was going to change the way that business ran. I was going to do this and do that. And he'd let me for the most part, and then it failed miserably. And he'd laugh and say, tried that 20 years ago, didn't work. And a friend of the show, well, it was a friend of mine more so, he criticises me on the show, but a friend called Mark Drummond, he always says to me, nothing's actually new. You think it's new, but it's not new. Someone's been there and tried it before you. And I think that is fairly true. I think that we think it's new. And
it's new to us.
It's new
probably.
to us, yeah. But
it's
new.
And it's new, yeah.
So,
and there's nothing better than a good idea in your head. You get a buzz and then you try to, see it through, and then you'll work on it. But then it's just trying to invest the time in the right place, isn't it?
My brother-in-law and my brother still mock me for half the ideas I had when I was in those chip shops. Like, and I give myself credit for trying. Like, whatever I say, like, I remember saying like 15 years ago to my parents and the whole family and everything. I was like, one day people are going to come in and they're just going to pay by card, and they were like, "Yeah, you're crazy. You're mental." They'd laugh at me. They were like, "No one will pay by card in a chip shop. That's for the supermarket. That's for," and I know it was 15 years ago, like, and it was, I think Alex is 11 now. I left the business about then, but the fish and chip business, my family's fish and chip business then. And I remember saying then, like, get ready for the future. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but start putting these systems in place, because one day people are going to come in and they're just going to pay by card. And honestly, they thought I was like a lunatic out the asylum, and obviously COVID changed everything, obviously, but
it was, that was an accelerator, wasn't it, for all this? And then just going where our shop location is, it was quite often, obviously before cards came out, it was check. People forget that people used to come in and pay by check, and it used to be if you paid by check, you were seen as someone slightly higher in their financial status. You could write a check and it's okay. I know it's not going to bounce, and you had to put that trust into your customer as well, that, that you're going to receive this check. But then the odd person used to come in. I remember talking good 20 years ago, and it was like when credit cards were, and if you had a credit card, you were seen as someone really wealthy. And it was more of a flex, wasn't it, when they used to come in, and because they used to queue in the old ways, and people would be like, look, I'm going to pull out my Amex here. And and it was a status thing and a flex for a lot of people, but it's the everyday thing now, isn't it?
It is so true. Like, I remember when I was growing up, I was about 15, 16, and there was a family member. Oh, it was a friend of the family, and I remember him putting up outside our house in a 7 Series Beamer. He was very well-to-do. I remember they'd go to the weekend. They'd go to London and spend time in Harrods, and he was lovely. He was a sweet person. And but I remember we go out to a restaurant and he'd pull out an Amex Gold back then, like.
Yeah, and serious stuff then.
Yeah, then it was like we're talking. I was 15, so what year, 1999, give or take. So he pulls out an Amex Gold, and you think, whoa. And then the next time I saw him, I was about 17. He pulls out the Platinum, like, and that was a proper flex on top of the last flex. So you think, and now it's like, I know people that earn less than me with an Amex Platinum, and I don't earn a lot because I'm building a business, I'm growing things, and you think like, You're driving a Ford Focus and you've got an Amex Gold, and that's how the society has massively changed. And I do think that the society is massively more egalitarian now. Like, a lot more people have the luxury things. You don't have to be rich to have those things, and it is access to credit. I know it's access to credit, but still, but yeah. It is crazy how the world has gone, And I remember Coca-Cola saying, Coca-Cola as a brand reminds me of what fish and chips is. I think that, and I know fish and chips is not a brand; it's a product as such, and it's definitely not owned by one person. But it is an affordable treat that everyone can enjoy, rich, poor. I think so, and I think that's my opinion. I know some may disagree. But
it's almost a habit, I'd say. I think you in some ways got similarities there. It's the go-to, isn't it? The go-to thing when you see it in the fridge. It's that story of Pepsi and Coke, though, isn't it? Yeah. Where there's a vending machine, Coca-Cola there. They're selling 100 cans a week or whatever, and then Pepsi go, well, we'll stick one next to it. But then you think you're giving them a choice, but all of a sudden, it becomes a habit. You go there to get a drink, and everyone starts going there to get a drink. And the volume of sale.
Did you? I don't know if you saw my article written last week on habits. Did you see that at all?
I briefly read through it. Yeah.
Was I wrong or right or in
the No, it is a lot about habit.
Well, I think we do. Do you get what I mean? That mentality as a fish and chip shop owner, where if you drove past a shop and you saw one of your guys one of your customers in another shop, you get this not a rage. It's probably a bit extreme, but an annoyance. Let's say, where you think, what have I done to that person to go to another chip shop? And you think, all we see in isolation is that person is in that shop. So the only thing it means is that you've annoyed them or they're not happy with you no more. Whereas actually, their habits changed and they might be going to a swimming pool.
Could be could be circumstantial. Or something that, is it something that they do that you don't? It doesn't necessarily mean that they've
disloyal
or you've lost them. I would say it's evident, and sometimes it goes back to this model of fish and chips where obviously on Merseyside Northwest, it's a very different landscape from your traditional chippies probably around the country, because a lot of them are multi-cuisine, especially Liverpool. It's a very unique environment. So you've got, for those who don't know, obviously there's people doing Chinese kebabs, pizzas, chicken, probably jacket potatoes as well. And probably 20 years ago, it was a great model because it was convenient. It was all under one roof, and if you're wanting fish and chips tonight, but your wife wants a kebab or Chinese or something, it was convenient. So, and one of the driving factors in Liverpool is Chinese. I've got family in shops. They all have Chinese still on their menus to do kebabs as well.
Not just the odd Chinese meal, to clarify. We're talking about full setups in the back. And
it's a menu like a Bible.
Yeah, they've got the whole Chinese menu like you would if you went to a Chinese takeaway.
Yeah. And years ago, it was like, wow, they do all this stuff. And you come in and the menu's wrapped around 3 walls of the shop. And there's
like a U-shape.
And I remember as a kid growing up in the industry, and even in my dad's shop and granddad's shop, and uncle, I used to go and help them out or get a call, can Cos come down and give us a hand a short staff day, and I had to go in and memorise all the numbers of all the meals, because then you had to write it down by number, because most of the time the Chinese chef in the back would have his board written in Chinese or Mandarin or Cantonese, whatever, and he'd have to obviously translate it to him. So the number code system worked because it was easy for him to just go, 96 chicken fried rice, whatever it might have been. And you see your notes on your orders, 96, 27, 20, and then like, how do you remember all these things? But
there's a system.
Again, habit, and you do memorize all these because there's a common favorites as well that customers have, and it was easy, but it looked overwhelming at the time.
Is that still a thing? Like, it would fish and chip shops in Liverpool, like we supply the lobster pot. I remember when Harry had it. He's a good
friend of mine, Harry.
Oh, I love Harry. What a legend.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. I remember I was saying to him, "Why don't you do all this Chinese stuff?" Right, and he goes, "I think he had like 3 things in the hot box, maybe a spring roll and a Chinese curry, and that was it. Really, about 4 or 5 items, and maybe 6.
It would be probably the most common favourite dishes.
Yeah, and obviously he's got a different clientele.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's retired now. But then I remember going to a shop in the Wirral. I can't remember where exactly because it was a good few years ago, and I walked in, and there was a fish and chip shop in the front, normal frying range. You wouldn't have known anything except for the smell because there was opposing smells. And then you walk around the back into the next room and a whole Chinese takeaway set up, and you think, whoa, like that. I didn't expect that, and I heard about it, but I didn't expect it. And now I'm not surprised by it anymore. But I just felt like it was a lot going on. Like. And I remember chatting to the owner of that shop. I think he was selling up at the time. It was a good few years ago. And he said one thing he didn't appreciate was, he said a long time ago, labour was cheap. And he said doing all of that menu was fine. Kebabs, fish and chips. He didn't do pizza, but let's say there was the odd bits and bobs as well. And then the Chinese section, he goes, labour was cheap. It wasn't a problem. However, now, or 4 years ago when he sold, and now, labour was a lot more expensive and hard to come by. And he said, so if you found like the head chef, I'm doing that in quotes because it's the higher person, he would then be in charge of his crew. He'd bring his crew with him, and you'd pay that person for everything. And if you pissed off that person, no one turned up. And I don't know how true that is, or maybe that was just his experience. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely true in some of the higher volume shops that are churning out a lot of meals. I mean, to put into perspective for those who aren't doing it, it is another business in a business. And what is starting to happen is now you're starting to see a lot of people trying to get away from it because of the costs. If you're not doing a minimum volume of orders per day, it's just not worth it, although it's a massive pull. And this is the dilemma which I think a lot of them find themselves in. They're probably scared of removing it completely, which then will allow them to focus their efforts more on everything else and maybe elevate that a little bit. But it's also a massive pull because it's the habit. It's going back to what you're saying about the habit. People are just used to a chippy in Liverpool or in the northwest Merseyside. You go in and I've got a choice of having a chicken fried rice, I'll have a curry, I'll have this or whatever.
I guess it's the same. Go on.
We get it in our shop because we're just completely traditional fish and chips. To give you an example, we get a lot of work tradies coming in, and a lot of them are coming over from Liverpool or other sides of the Wirral where they live. Every shop's got Chinese in, it's got everything else, and they're coming in and going, "Oh, give us this, and this," which is what we all do, and then they'll go, "Oh, give us chicken fried rice or give us a sweet and sour." I'm really sorry, we don't serve Chinese, and it's like, we don't do Chinese. You having a laugh? What you call yourself a chippy? I'm like, yeah,
I love that bit. I love that. Yeah, that's.
And it's like we're just traditional. We're a traditional fish and chips. And it's like, we do. To be fair, we do very small selection of Oriental meals, which are on our specials. And I've always thought, I know if I put Chinese meals on in my shop, I'm giving myself another headache. I've got the capability to do it because you've seen our kitchen. We kept our Chinese wok range, and we use that to do peas, curry, and gravy, and it takes 20 minutes. So. It's a great thing to have in your shop if you've got the space, and it, working with a normal hob. And what we found was you can do a few things. It's there, and maybe one day, I don't know, and never say never. But the reason we don't do it is because many years ago, my dad had a bad experience with trying to hire people. The right people, and that's another problem. If you've got someone working in your shop, it's almost like having a partner. And if you get, it's like anyone, isn't it? At the end of the day, if you get a rotten apple in your team, it's no good. So it's got a lot of negatives, got a lot of pros, and if you can smash it and you can do it right, it is very good. but it's not for the faint-hearted. It's not for the faint-hearted.
It's interesting because, did I ever tell you about the time when I went to a shop near Manchester, and it was about years ago now, 6-7 years ago. It was definitely before COVID. That's the benchmark now, isn't it? Pre-COVID, and she goes, "Oh, can you come and do a demo?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." It was a Chinese lady, really pleasant. Like, so I go in, walk into the shop, and I'm thinking, something missing. Anyway, I go back to the car. I'm thinking, what's missing? Like, I go back, take the samples in. I'm just scratching my head. The range was missing. There was no frying range.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay. So we go into the back room. Like, there was a counter and then an archway. It did feel a bit, because she was Chinese, but it did feel like a Chinese takeaway. And I just assumed it was a Chinese takeaway and isn't anymore. So we go in the back and they've got a wok range. And I was like, right. Oh, so when does your frying range come? And she's like, no, we're going to fry fish and chips on the wok range.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like,
I mean...
Oh. Like...
Yeah, I mean, I can remember... Oh, this is back when my granddad was in the game, and it was times when there'd be the last hour of the shop, it's gone down really quick. I'm talking about when the shops were staying open till midnight, 11 o'clock. So we had one shop, open till 1 o'clock in the morning. Used to do the pub trade, and they'd be turning the range off because though fish and chips wasn't really a big popular choice of dish at that time of night. And they would sometimes, they'd have a massive pan in the back and they just use the wok and, chuck a fish in. And
I did try to explain to her, you're not going to hit the volume. So she said, wait, do you know how many Chinese meals we did out of this? I was like, yes, that's 200 individual Chinese meals, 300, 400, whatever it may be, because I know how versatile they can be for that. But I was trying to explain, whatever a wok is, what is it, 20 centimetres wide, 25 centimetres wide?
On average, yeah.
And I was like, you're just not going to hit the volume that you need to hit. And, she's like, oh, okay. Anyway, she did try, bless her, but she didn't want to buy a frying range. And so I think in the end, she just leased it out as a Chinese takeaway, which, again, made logical sense to me. But going back to what customers' expectations, if you're in Leicester and you don't do pucker pies, mate, because they're made in Leicester. So, I'd imagine it's similar to, up there, if you Holland, let's say. Or what's the other one? Begins with G, I think. I can't remember.
Greenhalls.
Yeah, Greenhalls.
We use Greenhalls.
And then if you've got, Glasgow, if you're in Glasgow and you don't do pizza, things are going to get sticky. And I think there's a lot of areas in the UK where but if you go to West Yorkshire, their menus are so tight. As in, there's hardly anything on there.
Simple. That's the dream, still. Yeah. That is the dream. Honestly, it is the dream. Yeah. But I don't know if I can be a bit boring sometimes.
Possibly.
But I don't know. I mean,
but is there anything better? I won't say where, but
from an operation point of view, I think it's the best thing. Well, look, simple. Best things in life are simple, aren't they? It's just
if you had let's say a 14 grand a week shop, and let's say it was open nice hours, nothing too crazy. Let's say it was 12 till 2, 4 till 8. Let's say, maybe I'm being a bit conservative on the times here, but it's just an example. And then let's say you only did haddock, maybe in 2 sizes. Then chips, battered sausage, a few bits and bobs in the hot box, a Yorkshire fish cake type thing, and then peas curry, beans gravy, and then bread rolls. That is that takes you back to what shops were in our areas in the 70s, to be honest. And I know, when all the ethnics came, they did what they did because they're thinking, how can I pull more customers in? I'm going to do this. I'm going to work longer hours. And then you sort of look at it and think, oh, was that a good idea? I don't know. But who knows? You don't know. You only know looking back.
I think as time has evolved, flavors changing, people's palates and choice and the variety you can get nowadays, and it's competition, isn't it? I think, and that's what drives us to want to have something a little bit different, and you're trying to reinvent the wheel, really. But like you said, what Mark Drummond told you once, that nothing's new, is it? It's new to that moment or that time and to that person, and
absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with that. No,
absolutely. And look, I guess you could argue that there is some marketing leverage in having a tight menu like that, to be honest. Like, because it's almost like then you're a proper traditional. Like, I remember when I went to, it was North Yorkshire, but it's Scrapbox near York. Really nice lads. And I was looking at their menu and I was just looking at it thinking, where's the rest of it? Like, where is it? There must have been no more than 8 things on that menu. And I was there on a Thursday lunch, and it was rammed. Like, nobody was saying, oh, I want this, I want that. And then a friend of mine, Brent Watson, he was on the podcast recently. He's got a little shop. It is a little shop. He would not be insulted by that. I didn't say it wasn't busy, because it is. But he's got a little shop in South Yorkshire. And again, very small menu. And he says once a customer went in and said, oh, why don't you do kebabs? And he said there was like 7 or 8 people in the shop, and they pretty much, everyone after him basically said, well, if you do kebabs, I'm not coming back, they stink. And I think and it is a very small village in Yorkshire, so, but it's interesting, because Liverpool, there was one shop, I don't know if it was Liverpool or Wirral or Manchester, but there was one shop, it might have been called Olympus, I've never been, but apparently does does all the fish and chip food, some Italian stuff like pizza and so on, Greek food, does Indian food, Polish food, Chinese food.
I know who it is.
Have I got the right name of the shop?
Yeah, is it a restaurant as well?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal shop.
Okay.
It's actually a very well run business. Yeah. It's family run from back in the 70s, I believe. I think is a Greek chap who's got it from Manchester community. I know him very well. Phenomenal shop, phenomenal setup. His attention to detail is something to admire.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does. He's obviously got a bit of the Greek influence there. His mum, I think, used to bake and do I'm pretty sure they used to do like moussaka and macaroni de fondo. That's a stitch show for the. Honestly, yeah. That's nuts. And there's a few shops like that around in Liverpool. I know of people who do that.
That's nuts.
And why not? People,
well done to them
people
if they can do it. Well done to them.
If it tastes nice, I'll buy it.
Look, food is food. So if it tastes good, and I'll eat it. But from a business point of view, operationally, you start juggling a lot of plates, and
you do.
And I was at a shop recently, not far from our warehouse, and just a normal Tuesday afternoon, I was just dropping something off, and it wasn't that busy. It was just steady, and there was a fryer, 3 staff on. It was a lunchtime, and they do lots of different things, and the queue was flowing, and then next thing you know, a customer orders one of these new products, and it just sent everyone into a tailspin, because now all of a sudden that takes 9 minutes, everything else is ready, customers ordered it at the end, and it's just like, right. And I'm like, that isn't the customer's fault. That is really the way you've designed your menu, really.
Yeah, I think going back to what you said there, about the simplicity of having 6-7 items on your menu, it's a question then to ask: do you need all this tech which we're all going towards or have already got? Because really, you already know what they're coming to buy, because you only sell a few things. Yeah. Your main products, your fish, the odd sausage or a savoury or fish cake, whatever you call it. And your sides and your add-ons. Now that works, and that's great, because are you now the specialist of what you do? So it's going back to that old school, you go to your baker, you go to your butcher, and then we've had this cycle of everyone jumped on the supermarkets because they go, I can go buy my bread there now. I don't have to go stop off at 6-7 different shops, and I'll go get it all under one roof, which is that theory of the same sort of concept that happened over in Liverpool, having all that, which it does work. It's a model that works. But I think nowadays people are more and more realizing, especially with the cost of food, that they're picking and choosing, and they want the best for what they get. The money is important. They want that money to buy the best quality. And I think you're starting to see a rise now, more of these independents. And there's this artisan, I say it in commas, that you're now the specialist. And I think that's how we need to market it. We're not just a fish shop or the fish and chip shop. You are the specialist. We are doing fish and chips at its best. We're not just a shop that sells fish and chips as well.
Yeah.
I had to be able to offer
I
it.
see a lot of these, obviously it's content creators, but they're like, let's say it's a burger one, because now invariably all of these sort of burger businesses that you see on Just Eat, they are pushing hard with, videos and stuff, because they're trying to grab volume that doesn't, and we'll get onto this actually, because I've got some questions about Just Eat, but they're trying to sort of like bypass the Just Eat algorithm, and they're trying to bypass the Facebook algorithm, so they don't want to pay, so they do videos, and they're all acting like burger specialists. There's some of them are really nice looking, and others are just, you could tell it's just a burger out the freezer. Now that's fine too. They've got a business to run, but like, it makes me wonder, like, can you be a jack of all and actually do them all amazingly well? Like, I don't know that guy that has that shop in.
I don't think you can. No. We've had shops like that.
Yeah.
And unless you've got skilled people who care and are passionate for that particular section, say, it's one of them, because I remember Kelly talking about it on the squad pod the other day about trying to get the most out of all your staff and trying to get them to be all rounders. Now that's all good and great if everyone's able, you've got simple things to do, but it's okay saying, oh, I know you might have a grill section as well. Now, yeah, you can teach someone to do the grill, but in busy times where you're chucking that volume out and you need that consistency to be, your young person who serves, usually she might have an eye, or he might have an eye to be able to do that because they've seen what the other person does, but they're not fully trained in that, and that's where you'll get your inconsistencies. And I think having all-rounders for certain things is good, but having to be a jack of all trades and be good at everything, I think it's very difficult to achieve what we aim for as perfection. I don't think you'll ever do that. You will get an area where it's...
I think you can't expect it from day one. I think that, like, how do you sell the job? Like for example, if you're like, by the way, I own John Shippey, I'd love to give you a job. What is it I have to do? Everything. There's nothing you won't do. Oh, really? Now already that's a huge learning curve. They don't think that they mean, what they really mean is everything in time. Yeah, but when you say it like that, it sounds like everything tomorrow. So it's like, okay, and how much will I get paid? Well, what do you mean? National living wage, minimum wage, whatever it is, let's say. And they're like, oh, okay. Now, when you think that for the most part, people can go to, maybe not Aldi, you get paid well at Aldi, but you don't do one job at Aldi. But for the most part, you go to a supermarket, let's say Sainsbury's, and you only have one job, and and it's stacking shelves, or it's being on the till, and you'll get probably more than living wage, and you'll get discount. Or you go to McDonald's, and someone will spend 6 2-hour sessions showing you how to do one job, how to mop the floor. And someone said to me, that's a ridiculously long amount of time to spend showing somebody such a basic thing to do. And I'm like, but is it? Because once they've showed someone how to do that over 12 hours, then you'd think they know how to do it perfectly, wouldn't you? Well, ideally. I know that isn't always the case, but then there's retraining. And I think there is an issue where, and I think I pulled out, I did sort of go up against Kelly and them lot on that podcast, because I think they were very much like, in some ways, staff could do better, and we should expect them to do everything. And I think I agree with that after a certain period of time. But whether you pile it all on them from day one is a bit much. I don't know.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because if you look at recruitment as a topic, and probably the interview process, how many people do, I don't know, a process where it actually sets out the expectations from day one in the interview? Because it's easy to say to someone, oh yeah, what do you want a job for? Obviously they're going to say, I need to make some money. That's the ultimate reason why we all have a job at the end of the day. But it shouldn't just be about money. Aside, I think if you interview someone and you give them a clear structure and a plan, it's getting difficult, obviously. If you said you had a pool of people and you had 200 people queuing at your door, you can now cherry pick, and you can probably go, well, actually, although you're very good at this, you're not very good at that. I'm going to pass on you because I've got someone waiting outside who probably might tick that box, or I've already interviewed them. And, it's different where we're struggling for staff nowadays. I think people just are happy to have anyone in just to have the help at the minute. And although you can interview someone properly, professionally, set the expectations in the interview, if you're not doing that, I think it's a recipe for disaster after, because you'll pile it on later and later once they've got through the door, and then all of a sudden they're going, hang on, you didn't tell me that I was going to do this, and then morale will drop, and then so it is a very difficult thing to balance and get right. I
think this is why I'm a huge fan of paying more generally, and I think because that gives you choices. You're paying for choice, and then at least you're not scraping the barrel. You're just above, maybe. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then, sorry to make that sound a bit negative, but you've got to look at the market at the moment. It's hard. Like, and good people aren't leaving other businesses at the minute because the market's a bit precarious. So there's, you've got to entice them. But I'm a big fan of putting the wage in the advert, because then if they're not interested, they don't turn up. Like, and if they are interested, they come, or they're pleasantly surprised. Well, actually, with that job role and that pay and the projections that I could do when I'm there, that sounds good. I might go there. Or they're just like, no, that's not worth it for me. I don't want to go. And then they're not wasting your time. Like, that's my thought. I might be wholly optimistic, and I'm sure I'm going to get a load of messages saying you're chatting crap about that. But that's,
Times have changed still, I think. I think, Ellen, what you say there is true. And then there's the other side, I think, where, 20, 30 years ago, it was just like, yeah, just get in. I think expectation of what going to work was about, and that is, I think, just the way people see each other nowadays is different. It's a different mindset. You go to work 20, 30 years ago, if your boss told you do that, you bloody well do it, and you wouldn't question it. But nowadays, I think there's a few snowflakes out there, and that's something that's, they take offence, or they'll just walk out on the smallest thing, or they'll use an excuse. I think something that we try to do, or I have been doing more recently, since COVID, and I think COVID's changed the way people think about going to work and what they should do. There's a sense of entitlement in some people's minds, for sure. But the good ones that you keep, and the reason why they stay, is you shouldn't make it always about the job. I think you now have to be a bit of like a psychologist, a shoulder to cry on. You have to be a bit personal with them to a professional level, and understand the person that you've got working for you, with you. Understanding them and what goes on in life, because at the end of the day, it's very hard to be always professional, because you're a family at the end of the day. You see these people every day. You're working with them every day, and some people are just very ruthless and just disregard that and go, well, no, this is workplace. But you've got to weigh it up. Sometimes she might be having a bad day, or he might be having a bad day, or this or that. If someone's taking the piss out of you.
Yeah.
You do know that. But if you allow that, and you show you're not soft in that way, I think the respect comes mutually, and I think you will get more out of people, because if you understand them. I'll give you an example. She's forever grateful. I'm sure there's people out there who've done this and do it as well. I'm not just, but just as an example, we've had one lady who works for me. You've met her, I think, Alex. Last year she lost her dad, and her dad lives over in Romania, and he was falling ill. She had obviously devastating phone call saying, things aren't looking good. And it was around Christmas. And obviously, everyone around Christmas is a bit more stressed financially and whatever. And I was like, listen, don't worry about it. She goes, what do you mean? She goes, I can't afford to go. And obviously, I've got to be here. I was like, what do you mean? What's the problem? Like, because it's Christmas time, or what? She goes, if I go, then it means I'm not going to be able to work, and then I'm going to lose out on, my income, and I've got my kids. And I was like, listen, it's your dad at the end of the day. So I said, when do you need to be there? She goes, but I can't go. I said, no, you need to be there. It's your dad. Paid for her flights. Said, there you go. Off you go. Don't worry about your shifts, your hours, your shop. I said, I'm gonna pay you that anyway. At the end of the day, and you need to be there for your dad. And I know she's forever grateful for that. And it's just little things like that. I think, okay, we never always see eye to eye sometimes, but you won't. And that's the thing. It's just about being a good human at the end of the day. And if you get that, you'll get the best out of people, or they'll do things
and that doesn't,
in good intention.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that you'll always get the best from people. But it does mean that it's a recipe, at least for the most part, of success, that you're being human and you'd want to be treated the same way if that was happening to you.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, and it doesn't mean that you won't ever argue again, and she might probably call you a knob, and that happens, but it's a joke. And sometimes, because like you say, your family, I remember when I first started, there was a woman that worked out in the chip shop she was there 15 years before I got there. So I knew her as all my life because I lived next door. And when I first started working there, like hearing my dad chat to her, like it was hilarious. Like he'd call her a slapper, like all these things. And I was like, Sarah, like you can't let him talk to you like that. And she was like, it's all right, he's being a dickhead. And I was like, you'd never say that to his face. Anyway, he comes in, they're laughing and joking. She goes, Pete, you're such a knobhead, mate. Like, and they were just laughing their heads off.
It's banter, yeah.
And they got on really well. Like, and my mum laughed about it. My mum never called her that because it's just not a word that my mum would ever use. But like, he never meant it. He's just having a laugh and joke. They worked together every day for 15 years. Like, so, and I remember it was way after that. I ran the shop for 10 years by this point. I remember he went on holiday and he'd come back and he owns the place. Whatever you say, like, it's his name above the door. He owns the place. Like, walks in. He goes up to the chip box to get some chips. There was a big girl there. Like, I can't remember her name. She didn't last very long. He walks up to her and goes, "Move out of the way, you fat cow." Yeah. She was like,
"Yeah,
you cannot talk to me like that." And I was like, "Dad, get out. I'll bring you food." Like, you can't talk to her like that. And it just showed that things had changed in those 10 years.
Oh, like, totally. I mean, yeah, you'd be having a tribunal for, and that's all that now. And
that's something that generation just don't see. And so the key thing is, why I've brought this up actually, is how do you find the line between banter, having a laugh, being heartfelt, doing those nice things, and then crossing the line over official PR and HR things? Because I think that's what's made people very scared to help now and do things, because, well, HR and this and that, what if she does something later on, I get sued? And I think there's all of these things. Like, how do you find that line now? Like,
it's a great question. I think in some respects, at the end of the day, there's that professionalism you've got to instill into your team. There's a time to talk about things and there's a time not to talk about things. And it happens. I mean, quite often, you might not have anyone in the shop and they'll get into discussions, and it's like, I go ballistic sometimes, like, don't finish your conversation. Instantly stop. If a customer walks in, but you turn into that switch on off. Okay, it's fine, but you're still in a professional environment, and someone might take offense by something what you say, but they might not show it. And it's that, I hate to say it, snowflakes at the end of the day. I don't think people are as hard-skinned as they used to be years ago. It's all changed. Well, and there is that part of, like you said, being scared to be able to do something without being punished for it.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't do something for the sake of getting one over on someone as like a power play. I've done it genuinely out of the goodness of my heart because I want to do that for you. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't waste my time. And it almost goes, I bet you people, do that person deserve it? Oh, he or she pissed me off at this point. You know what? Forget it. And there's people out there but really, just got to be a bit understanding.
Yeah.
I think
when you're interviewing, what's like a big red flag for you?
Oh, great question. Um, Lots of things. I think it's hard to ask certain questions that you need to as well, because that's another thing, the interview process alone is asking the wrong questions. I mean, there is things that you can ask to probe someone, and you can get that feeler. I mean, generally, I've always had this sixth sense, which you can kind of pick up on people's body language, tone, the way they answer a question, or if they're a bit, wouldn't say nervous, because a lot of people can be nervous in an interview, but it's about creating the right environment in the interview to relax them. And if they're still nervous then, or they're a bit hesitant, then you probably know there's a judge of character there. You need to probably keep tabs on it.
One thing I've always looked for is enthusiasm. Like, I know they ain't got experience, like, well, unless they've worked at another chip shop, or if they've worked in another warehouse. But if they come in ready, enthused, and I know you can fake that, and but I do think that if you're enthusiastic, I can handle that. I like that. I think, you know what? They've got a can-do attitude. I'm up for that. I think one thing I can't tolerate as a red flag is if you're miserable at the interview and there's no reason,
like you don't want to be there,
then that's a bit of a red flag, actually. But I was reading this article recently, and it said maybe in the world of AI, which we're getting into anyway, in the world of AI, we need to stop asking questions and go back to like little challenges. So I was reading something that said, I know it's Elon Musk, so it's quite high up, it's Tesla, but he would say to people, when you were at a job before, tell me one project that could have been critical to failure and how you fixed it specifically, step by step. And then there was another one on a real local level that basically had a plug socket undone and basically left the instructions there and said to people, oh, do this for us. Like, quite casually, just do this for us. And just to see what's their dexterity, like what they're thinking. Not do they know how to do it, because not everybody knows how to wire a plug, but the instructions were there. And it was just to see how they mentally got along with it. And I think there's a lot to be said now, because with AI, like, anyone can answer questions or prepare themselves for certain things. And that doesn't makes them enthusiastic in one respect, I guess, well researched, but are they actually up for it?
Yeah, something that I don't know if I ever told you, actually, as well as chippies, obviously. I worked for a well-known football club in the operations hospitality, and throughout the summer was part of the recruitment drive, which it's a very different landscape, obviously, because you're talking hundreds of people. But for 3 months of the summer, when the season was shut, we're recruiting for the following season, and we're putting through over 900 interviews for casual staff. So that would range from students to some people retiring, just wanted a bit of top up on the weekends. And what the process was there, which is something which I loved being involved in, it was 3 stages of the interview, and it was all done within, it was an open forum. So you'd invite everyone in, you'd be doing like block sessions, so like 200 at a time. And the big part of what they do was live demonstrations. Had nothing to do with the job whatsoever, what they'd be doing. It was tasks, and it was team tasks, because the purpose of, obviously, the landscape of running a football club on match day, you require big teams in massive areas, and what you're trying to identify is, in those exercises, who are the leaders, who are the quiet ones, who are the ones who just get things done. So a lot of it was about you're going to get them in because the training was going to be there. It didn't matter the skill level that you came in with. You'd find that out later in in-depth questions in the interview. So then you'd fit them into certain departments, so you'd know. So, there was people who were really good at just getting stuff done, but were really quiet. So you wouldn't put them in a customer-facing environment because they were all introverts. So you could do a lot of this and understanding their skills and what they'd be good at, and then utilize them in different areas of the stadium. that was a great thing, and it was fun. So what you're doing by having that sort of process is you're able to create a fun environment. It's the team. It starts from day one, even though it's an interview, and you might not even get the job. It sets the tone later, so everything's done in a team way. It's all about driving the end result, and everyone's important. Doesn't matter what your role might be or become. It's you are playing a super critical piece of the jigsaw here. You're a big component of it. And yeah, obviously as time goes on, you move people around because you thought actually you didn't show that in the interview, maybe because of interview day nerves, but they actually proved to do something really good later on. You go, actually, it's about being able to identify them and seeing what they're able to do. So, and you've got to test them as well. It's not just about, can they do it? Give someone the chance to try and show you. If they can't do it, sit back and look at it and go, well, why did that fail? Was it the way I showed you? Because everyone learns different as well, isn't it?
That's true.
Something
we're learning a lot about now, that people learn differently.
That's one question I ask in an interview now is how, in your training or in your induction, so we can prep up if you do get the job and you're successful, what ways do you like to learn? That's a question I ask. So do you prefer me to show you something? Would you like me to just tell you, give you a list of instructions on how to do it? So for me, if I was sitting in that chair being interviewed and someone said to me, I'm like, well, actually, this place might be okay because I feel relaxed already that they're going to understand me, and I might have been a bit shy or not sure about doing something, but they're trying to understand me. So it's a two-way thing. You feel a little bit more open and relaxed, don't you? And then you probably go in with a bit more enthusiasm. But if you I remember years ago, you get someone, get someone in off the street, give them a job, right, go and do that. And then 2 minutes later, why have you done it like that? Well, did you show me? Did you tell me? Whose fault is it? I've tried to do what I thought you'd asked me to do, but obviously I haven't done it right. But now I'm getting into trouble for it. But that's just really bad management, isn't it? It's just
I think
a sign of
you can't tell people off because they did something wrong if they've not
exactly
been taught how to do it.
Yes.
I think that's just incredible. And I guess that is just day-to-day frustrations, but still, at the end of the day, you're not going to really have a great track record for employing if you're snapping at people because they didn't make your tea right, or they didn't, mop the floor right, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? If they've not been shown, and I think this goes back to the McDonald's, if they're spending 6 2-hour sessions and happy to do more just to do the basic thing, you know what, a lot of people say, well, yeah, that's a joke, I'm not doing that. And I think that's what makes them different, I guess,
The people who answer that in the way you just said, is that a joke? Do you think maybe they're thinking, it's just a basic skill, you should know that?
I think there's an element of that. I get that. But
is that why they think they react that way? Or
possibly,
is it because...
I think there's a lot of different elements to that. There's that. I think there's, they should know how to mop a floor. But then I have an 11-year-old who does not know how to mop a floor, because if I give him a basic job, and he knows lots of other things, but if I give him a basic job, he'll be like, oh, can't be arsed, and I just do it myself because I think, can I be bothered? And I think, yeah, and I get how, before I never saw that until I had a kid. Now, and I think we forget what it's like having kids. I was at a shop not long ago, and he goes, staff come in now, they don't make us a cup of tea. And I was like, well, are they cup of tea people, number one? I remember growing up, I was a cup of tea person, so I was making tea for staff, and my dad and staff would make us a tea because they were cup of tea people. We had women working for us at the shop that were in their 40s. I'd safely say they were people that liked tea. So whilst they were making tea, they were making one for the boss. My lad, I make a tea every day in the house. I say, Alex, do you want a tea? Just to be nice. I know he's going to say no, and he'll say, no, thanks. He's not a tea person. So,
Yeah.
and it goes as far.
Oh, I get that.
So it goes as far to say he's not a mop the floor person. He's more of a drop something on the floor person and let mum and dad pick it up. I'm not going to lie. Like, so yeah, we do see that in kids. So yeah, I think there's elements of bad management, but there's elements of they should know better. Their parents should have brought them up better. But I actually think if we invert our thinking and look the other way, as a manager or shop owner, look at our own kids. And do they do any of those things? And the answer is probably they're not upstairs mopping up right now, are they? They're not. They're on their bed like, playing Xbox, like, you know. So,
I think with the younger generation now, them growing up. I mean, we're on the cusp. I think still, we've seen the old and we've seen the new. Whereas the newer generation it's all the new stuff, and to them it's second nature. They don't, tech and all this now. You find the younger generations adapt it very fast. Where I'm going with this is that the younger gen don't necessarily have what was the word? They're not they're distracted by other things now. Whereas when we were growing up, it was like we had to find things to do, or we didn't have computers and games and iPhones and TikTok and they'd sit there scrolling all day. We had to make something up to keep ourselves entertained. And I think a lot of that was you'd see what your parents were doing or who you were with, and you'd want to be more interactive with them. So making a cup of tea was like, oh, I'll do it for you. Do you know what I mean? Because I want to have something to do. I'm bored. But doing that was like, we take it for granted. But I think the younger gen now, I say to my Andrea, do you want a cup of tea? He'll have a cup of tea, but he won't make it.
No.
I said to him, come on, you're going to make a cup of tea one day for us. Oh, yeah, I don't think I know how to do it. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, go on then, make me one. I had to pretend it was lovely.
Bless you. You see it?
Yeah, but it was just to get him to do it. And, his habit, go back to what you're saying, do it once, do it twice, 3 times, becomes a habit.
If I'm honest, it's an unpopular opinion. I just don't think that this generation of people are any worse than the ones before them. I think that we are older and we think they're worse only because they're under us. So we think they're worse than our generation because no one's better than our current generation. And yet, I remember growing up and my dad would say to my uncles, bloody hell, they're all useless. Like, I remember doing like 70, 80 hours a week when I was 17, 18. Dad just thought that was normal. Like, if I wasn't doing 6 days a week doubles, I was useless. Like, so I think that perception, everyone's perception of the generation after them, oh, look at them, they're useless. Oh, look at them, they're useless. Both the lads that are at the warehouse today, I've got 2 lads there at the minute, 1 in the office, so there's 3 all in. They're all younger people. They're all 19, 20 and 21. They're all really capable. But one thing I've done is spend a lot of time with them going over things and over things and over things. And when I go in a minute after this, I'll be doing more things with them. And yes, sometimes it is repetitive. But then now they're autopilot. They know what to do.
Yeah.
And they know there's processes in place. And if they're not sure, they So I do think, like, are we being hard on whoever's working? Like,
yeah, I think, like you say, go back to perception. There is actually a psychology thing here where I think anything you do, understand the way the brain works, is to create the neural groove in your brain, to create the habit. It takes 12 weeks, and it takes 12 weeks because it's like, you want to hit the gym. Always the start's the hardest. By week 3, 4, you're like into a bit of a routine. You think, well, actually, it's not this bad. And before you know it, 12 weeks is over, and then you're addicted. You can't get away from it.
It's just something.
It's routine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you've got an addictive personality, then that's where you've got to be really disciplined and not make that habit become a problem after, and an addiction, because that can be bad.
I think as an industry, though, we need to work harder getting people through the door. And I tell you why, because we often joke, oh, he's going to get a job at McDonald's or they're going to get a job at the corn shop. Well, they're not gagging to come and work in the local chip shop either. Like, we're not like, it's not the Ritz Carlton. We're not working on an F1 track. They're not working at Manchester United. It is the local chip shop. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. I'm saying, but we still need to work harder because there are perception issues there,
I think you've got. Well, this is where people now think got to start looking at the brand, and then I think that's
So make it a place where somebody wants to eat but also wants to work.
yeah. You got to look at the. Well, put it this way: if you're a tired shop, say, which there's plenty around, and this is not to disrespect anyone who've got them or who there's reasons why they're like that. Could be financial or long-term ownership, whatnot. You've got to look at that brand and look at that environment and go, why would I work here? And at the end of the day, there is a perception of a fish and chip shop. Oh, it's a greasy environment. Wow, it's nightlife. It's this, it's that. It has got that cloud around it. But if you've got a nice, clean, modern shop with a good brand, and it's not just about, oh, you're there to just whack a fish and a chips or something in a box and send it out and smack with a smile. What's the appeal? Do you know what I mean? Why should I go? Why should I, if it, talking about minimum wage now, and you're going to be paying whatever the rate might be? Well, I can go and sit in Tesco for £14 an hour, albeit there's not many cashiers left on the tills. But for an example, just sit there passing this thing through. It's dead easy. I'm not stressing. I'm not sweating. I've got no pressure on me. I still get to speak to someone. I do my job. I go home. But there's something about the fish and chip shop, which this is the thing as an industry we need to look at and make it attractive. What the answer to that is I don't think it's a one key solution and it will happen. It'll take time and to change the perception. But why would someone? I'll give you an example. For us, we've got a classic English restaurant in the village. Everyone and his dog, as in the younger generation, all want to work there. Right? It's a restaurant. It's a different vibe. And I think that's another thing with the takeaway bit and the fish and chip shops with the restaurants. I think from having them as well, I think it's a lot easier to attract people to come and work for you if you've got a restaurant.
Okay.
It is a very different, because you can segregate roles, because you've got front of house, you've got kitchen, back of house. It's a different operation. Whereas in the fish and chip shop, and you're expected to be a bit of everything. There's nowhere to hide in the takeaway, really, unless there's a specific job role or, it's a lot harder you got a more niche pool of people to try and bring in. Whereas in a restaurant, it's different. It's got a buzz, it's got an atmosphere, it's a lively place to work, and it's not just, if you're the waitress, yeah, you're still serving customers, but it's a bit more social.
Yeah.
It's a different sort of vibe to just the takeaway. In a takeaway, you're looking after checks, you're doing what the kitchen would be doing as well.
Yeah.
It's a blend of everything. And that can be overwhelming, I think, and I think it's why McDonald's, and I know we look back at McDonald's, that's why they are good at what they do, because they segregate people in sections. They've got the restaurants, although that I don't believe is their busiest part anymore. The way they've evolved, takeaway, drive-through, deliveries, taking over that bit. So there's less need for staff in the restaurant, but it's a different vibe. It is a different vibe. It's how do we create that vibe in the fish and chip industry to make it, do we need to, one of the things is remove the visual of the range out of the customer's eye to be able to change the concept of what a fish and chip shop looks like or what it might be. Is there a road to go down there? Make it a clean, open space, counter only, and there's a kitchen in the back, and it's still churning the food out, and it comes out of a hatch.
I don't know. Some of the best customer service I've seen is a shop in West Yorkshire, Leeds, called Cross Street Fisheries. Small shop with a wall range, and there's literally half a metre between the wall range and the counter. And then there's probably like a metre for the customers to queue, a metre by 5, let's say.
Yeah.
And being under that intense scrutiny, let's say, because the customers can see everything you're doing, I saw some of the best customer service in there. Like, how you doing, my love? You all right, love? Yeah, sure. You know, like, whereas, and I think that's because the atmosphere was they could see everything. I think if we look at going back to Chinese takeaways for a moment, where a lot of the time it's, I know there's a language barrier for the most part, whether it's intentional or unintentional.
Yeah.
There is most of the time a kitchen hidden behind a door, and they bring the little bag out, squeeze themselves through the door to give you it because they don't want you to see, they don't want you to glimpse through. I think that makes things less chatty. Personally,
it does. Yeah, I totally agree. I don't personally like that. I think the customer service part of you, it's your identity, it's you. It's so. Give me an example. Well, going back to that, what you're saying about being visual. My granddad's shop in the Wirral, when he first started out, he was the first person on the Merseyside scene to put Chinese in his fish and chip shop, and he did it as an open plan kitchen. So it was a visual. Wow, what's this like? I can see the guy cooking my food. This is amazing. Like that's mine. That's my one going in now. You know what I mean? That's what it created. It created this buzz as well as the norm of a fish and chip shop. I think now visual, you go to like a teppanyaki restaurant, it's theatre, it's got emotion, it's got that buzz, and it's cool. Do you know what I mean? People like that, and it might be seen as a fad sometimes, some concepts. Look at a separate barbecue. You see that spinning, not only when that smoke's hitting your nose and you can smell it visually, it's mouth-watering. And I can see that side of what you're saying, having it. I had it in one of my shops in Manchester, War Range. Used to do a lot of talking through the mirror. I had a mirror on the wall right across the range, and just to talk to people, because you obviously can't keep turning. You do your backing if you kept them doing 300 turns a day, just to talk to them face to face. But I think you've also got to look at when you set up a shop, how busy you are, what operationally is a big thing. So they've all got the pros and cons, having war ranges, island ranges, and it's a hard one to balance. But when I say taking it away, I'm just thinking of the McDonald's format, whereas now they got all AI screens, it's self-serve. They're coming away from having a person at the counter. Yes, it is the most dullest experience doing that. You don't speak to anyone. It's frustrating. But the chippies, the fish and chip, were part of communities. And I think if you're in a city centre environment, maybe you can get away with that. And if you're doing the volume, because it requires volume to be set up like that. Otherwise, it's pointless.
I think when it comes to staff conversations, like staff are shy anyway, for the most part. And customers aren't that shy because customers have been frequenting a business for longer than a staff member's been there for the most part. So they feel quite at ease with you, let's say, and maybe a few other staff members. And then they'll be like, oh, is this the new person? Then there's a bit of a, bit of chattiness there. And I always find just exposure, constant repetitiveness, constant retraining. I remember having scripts. I remember getting staff in on a Sunday for paid, or not every Sunday, but like once a quarter. And they'd be paid for this. And I'd get them in and we'd run through scripts and how customers could be. And, we'd use customers as examples. And I'd say, hey, Shona, remember when this customer come in and did this? And we're like, oh, yeah, let's use that as an example. And I remember after we treated the staff to like a beer afterwards because it was Sunday lunch and went to the pub. And they were just like, who'd have thought we'd be doing this at a chippy? Like, and again, this is where you break the mold. It's just like, but because I think if you allow that thought process to kick in from top to bottom, oh, it's only a chippy, then I think that can be quite dangerous. I think whatever the job is, by the way, like, imagine just saying, oh, it's only a car garage, or, doesn't matter if there's oil on the floor and someone trips over and breaks their neck. Like, I think it is that, but that you have that lazy thinking in anything. And I think that's where I'm quite cautious. I think because, we don't see what we do as just warehousing or selling out a product that we've got. We see it as we're supplying shops with something they rely on. and that's our goal. It's not just to
that's your drive.
That's our drive. You know, and I had to drive to Bournemouth on Friday last minute to drop something off at a customer. So I say drop something off, it's 3.5 hours there and 3.5 hours back. You know, on Saturday I dropped something off to a customer in my village, which is again, so my village, it's nice and easy. And I said to Matty, when I got in, when I texted him on Sunday night, and he said, "Oh, I can't believe you did that." I said, "Matty, we kept the customer going though, didn't we?" And I'm trying to teach him that if I got back and I was like, "Oh, it's well annoying," blah blah blah, like he'd be like, "I don't want to do that because it's well annoying." Yeah. So,
I mean, obviously he's obviously really appreciative you've gone all that way for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But again, it's those little things. I mean, it's like I had a customer in the other day. As she's gone to pay, her phone's died, and she only had a phone to pay with Apple Pay.
It happens, yeah.
Yeah, it happens. And she's a regular. I've known her for a long time, and she was like, "Oh my God, oh sorry, I'm just gonna have to forget it. Please don't start the order." I went, "Kimberly, what are you talking about? It's not a problem." She goes, "What do you mean?" She goes, "I can't pay you. My phone's died." I went, "Take the food, yeah, and next week when you come in, I'll do you a tab check, and it'll be there for when you come back. It's no problem. Just go and eat food." And she was telling me about, she legged it. This was like last minute. It was actually, we were 10 minutes after our closing time, and she only wanted like chips and a couple of sausages and a tub of gravy, which we had left. So yeah, no problem, we can do that for you. And she's like, "Oh, I've been rushing to get back. I've been at football with my lad, and he was there chatting with his mates. I was trying to get him in the car, and I was free." You know, it was just, so she's tried her best to get there. It's not gone her way. And in the end, I just said to her, "I'll tell you what, if you're that adamant you want to pay me now," I said, "but she can't." I said to her, I'll send you a link." Went on the app, sent her a payment link. There it is, gave her the receipt. And I said, literally, there's no rush. Like, you're here every week. But for that now, she obviously sent me a big thank you, blah, blah, blah. She said, "You saved my life. My son was starving, blah, blah, blah." But it's just those little things, those little details. Yeah, you could have McDonald's would turn around, "What? No, get no food, you don't pay." Simple as that.
Yeah, for the most part. And that's where small business really wins.
It does, yeah. And it's those little things that you can do. And obviously, yeah, I know her. It's different. And she's a long-standing customer, but a lot of people just said, "Nah, mate, sorry, you're not."
Yeah, there's no doubt you'd feel different if it was someone that had just walked in. Like, you'd never seen them before. But that's not the point. The point is that you took a decision upon yourself because you did know somebody, and another business just wouldn't be able to do that usually.
Yeah. And that's where we need to start looking as an industry to really home in on keeping it alive and making that difference and making people choose you, because there's too much choice. There's competition everywhere. And it's super important.
Talking of competition, I noticed that you're on Just Eat, and I was there and I saw the Just Eat driver coming in, and I was just thinking about something last night, and I text a friend of mine and I says, "How do you get on with Just Eat?" And he goes, "Well, with all the aggregators," he goes, "I find that his sales have slumped. He was really pushing it up until a year ago, or give or take. And then he noticed that there was just nothing left at the end of it. He was doing all of their, they do like offers and stuff on their app, and they can give you more visibility and stuff, and you pay for all of that." He says, "I was doing all of that. My margins were really slim. And then at the end of it, I noticed that there was just nothing there, like, because you're doing all the competitions, doing everything, because you really want to give it everything you've got. If you're going to be on the platform, I'll do it." And then he realised, well, this ain't worth it. And then he's really had the opposite drive, trying to lift the walk-ins, and it's really worked for him. Walk-ins have done really well for him, like, especially post-COVID. He's really worked hard at it. And he said, maybe I need to have a push back there. And I was like, but he said, I wasn't making the money. Like, and so obviously there's no reason to push it, if that makes sense. What about for you? Do you see any of that? Or have you chatted those challenges?
Yeah, so we did still our own delivery when we introduced it. Did that 4 years ago. We struggled with retention of drivers. Not only the retention of drivers was, for me, to have delivery, especially with the food that we produce, it's got to be within the customer's hands within maximum 10 minutes. So that obviously changes where you can go. and how far you can go. Now, our position geographically on the Wirral, because it's a peninsula, it's a coastal road. So to go from town to town or the nearest villages, I sat down and had to really work out like route plans and things like that when we first started it to see, one, could we hit the expectation times? But I could have a customer in our village in Lower Heswall, and because Lower Heswall's made up of loads of little side roads and little dips and things like that, it would take longer to go literally what is a 2 minute drive down the road. Sorry, in distance, sorry. A drive that would be literally down the road than for me to go to the next town, the next village, because the route to the road networks. So then to be able to churn out the volume, it meant I would have had to have 10 drivers, because you've got one in, one out, one in, out. And one driver could be gone for half an hour by the time he gets back to store. So that was a logistical issue. Obviously, you've then got the cost of running vehicles if you have your own, or the insurance as well. And it's a very difficult one to crack. But for us, we weren't relying on it to build any business, or rely on that, where a lot of shops obviously hit the aggregators in COVID to save them. Nothing wrong with that. The reason we jumped onto Just Eat was, when you crunch the numbers, it was actually cheaper to run it with their percentages than it was for us. So for me, if you want that service because you need delivery, then you're going to have to pay for it. And it's like anything else. You buy something off Amazon, you pay delivery, you pay post and packaging. So yeah, you should elevate your costs on there, and you keep your margin. Your margin's the most important thing. And if you're not, if you get the extra customer from 3-4 miles away, it was a customer you never had.
Yeah.
So for us, we're different as a business, because obviously we're long established. We've got a good name for ourselves. We've done well in the national awards as well, which has helped with PR. And it's different for us because people would come to us from afar, albeit they're not going to be your regular customer you see each week, but they would travel. We got people coming from 20 miles away just to come and eat because they've heard about us. And if they're in the area, or they'll make the habit that we're going to go to Pisces that week. So the ones that I've been gaining on the aggregators are the customers who probably thought, you know what, I've got 3 or 4 chippies around the corner from me. We use it by habit or convenience, but actually I can go and get a Pisces now, which is great. So I'll just bang it on delivery, and now it saves me getting out in the car and go and getting it. We probably lost a few customers who used to walk in the store because they prefer to have the comfort of sitting at home and getting it brought to them, which is okay. If they want to pay for that, then that's their choice. But always protect the margin. I don't have any issue with passing that cost on.
Yeah.
I have noticed the drop though in the last month.
So you think it's something wider than his specific issue, then maybe?
I think so. I was told that they've changed their algorithm,
okay,
and the way that they force your ranking. So obviously, I think it used to go by reviews and operational times and meeting the expected pickup times with drivers. Now I think they've pushed it more for this pay-per-click, which is another way to extract money from us. So unless you're pumping, a regular amount into their new marketing model, I think your rank's going to drop. Whether that's the actual answer for it, I don't really know.
If
but
that's
it's
the case, and again, I'm just going on what you said, and you're going on what you've heard. If that's the case, then it sounds like those people that are on all platforms will probably likely start choosing one and investing their time and effort through one.
Into the one.
Because if you're on all 3 or 4, whatever it is, because there's local ones now. So then if you're doing all of those, just the Deliveroo and Uber Eats, and then the local one, and then they're all a bit pay per clicky, where do you put all your eggs? And Yeah, and I think this is the thing, and
Yeah.
and I remember saying at the time of COVID, like, just be careful with the likes of the aggregators, because they are essentially becoming your business partner, and they're in the middle, and you don't really get much data of people that buy product through them. So the customer's theirs, and you're the food supplier to them.
You do lose out on that, don't you? Yeah, that's the bit which I don't like about. I suppose on your particular circumstances as a shop or where you're based as well, because the aggregators for us on the Wirral are actually relatively new. They've not actually established.
Okay.
Just Eat's been the longest. I think Uber second, and then Deliveroo. Deliveroo have literally just launched into the Wirral about 3-4 months ago. Okay. So then I had a phone call going, "Oh, we see you on Just Eat. Would you consider doing Deliveroo?" And I actually inquired about 2 years ago, and it was like, "We don't operate in your area at the moment. We'll mark it down as a one to get back to you if we ever do." And they did, but I thought we'll trial it, see how that goes. Now Deliveroo's not being as busy now. If I speak to the drivers, I've noticed that they are saying they are doing a lot more retail and grocery deliveries now. And that's where the money is for them, I think, because if you think about the bad side of the aggregators, where there's people exploiting the system, the refunding and the complaint processes and all that, and before they were given, "Oh yeah, here's your money back," not questioning the operator. Oh, I've got a family friend. He used to run all the aggregators and the local one, and he's a sandwich and a cake shop patisserie, and sending orders out for cakes, and they're putting refund requests in. "Oh, the item arrived cold." It's meant to be served bloody cold. And then he's on to the area managers or his rep kicking off going, "Have you actually seen this? Like, you're meant to be my account manager, but have you reviewed that complaint yourself? Have you actually questioned that? Or do you even get to see it? Are you just brushing it under the carpet because it's not your problem?"
Basically.
Probably not. And he goes, "Well, I didn't know nothing about it." He goes, "But if you're an account manager, what is the purpose of you being an account manager for me if you're not looking after my account?" There's got to be an element of them taking some responsibility and looking after you and going, "Well, hang on. Okay, if the customer's got an issue, let's look into this. What's the reason?" It's the same thing we would do if the customer came direct to store to complain. You'd want to look into it. And I know there's people out there who get very offended about someone comes back in the store and it might be in front of other customers or a review online sort of thing, and it's like, you've got to have some kind of a policy on how you deal with a complaint and what the process is, because although we're food businesses, people probably complain the most when they're the most hungriest, because they're hungry. Yeah. And it makes it worse, and you can actually compound that problem and make it even worse by just reacting the wrong way with complaints.
That's really interesting. I was at a shop the other day nearby in the West Midlands, and I just queued. I was waiting for the guy to come out. He was doing something out the back. The staff didn't know he did, but I noticed they had every time a customer sort of come in, there was a good 7 or 8 customers that come in while I was waiting. I was there for a good 25 minutes waiting, and there was like every few minutes they'd take out like a little grease proof and put literally the tiniest amount of chips on it, and with a bit of salt and vinegar for the people that are waiting for their food. I was thinking, they did it. I know, like, it was just like, we're talking like 3 or 4 chips. It wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
And it just made me think, like, I wonder, like, it might cost a little bit to do that. You got a little bit of grease proof, a few chips, there's splash salt and vinegar.
Yeah.
But actually, is that winning something else down the line? Is it stopping them from moaning about, the portion? Is it stopping them from moaning about, not being full or whatever? Like, I don't know. It just made me think, like, because it is unorthodox to do such a thing. They weren't asking, "Oh, can I try today's chips?" It wasn't like that. It was, and everyone seemed to be doing it. Like,
right.
And obviously everything was being cooked fresh, which was good, I guess. Like, so it's just a few chips while you're waiting. And I just thought, it just made me think, like, okay. Yeah,
it's like a an amuse-bouche.
Common person's amuse-bouche.
Yeah.
But yeah,
the starter for the starter.
It just made me think. But in terms of aggregators, I do think now they are probably here to stay. And I do think that things are probably going to get probably harder working with them because, you know, having a team that looks at complaints costs money, so they're going to make it your problem.
Yeah.
You know, with the way that the immigration laws are going in this country and how wages are going, it's going to be harder to get riders. So, you know, go on, sorry.
An interesting point you said there, speaking to a regular driver that we've got, really nice fella. He's really passionate about doing his delivery. He's always on time, really nice bloke. You can just tell he's your ideal. And he was telling me he got a bit like ruffled up about the conversation because I said to him, "Oh, Pete, I knew you'd turn up because we had an order that was lingering and was waiting for a driver. I was like, we were getting close to closing time, and I was like, I'm going to just have to do this, and I know someone will turn up, but I don't want to reject the customer." So Pete turns up, and I was like, "Is there a shortage of drivers tonight, Pete, or something? What's going on?" Or because they've all got their WhatsApp groups, the drivers, and they all mingle and talk about things as well together. And he was like, "Oh yeah, apparently, whether this is true, he was saying that there's like a syndicate of people. So for the ones who may be here who can't work, they're buying and charging them per day a device."
Okay.
So this is the dark side of what's going on. I think this is an issue we need to be careful of because these people probably genuinely want to work. They can't, obviously for legal reasons. But then there's people out there who, how they're doing it, I don't know. Could be different identities or whatnot. They open several accounts. They've got 10 devices, and they'll say to you, "Stel, do you want to earn some money today? Here's a device, it's 50 quid for the day. Good luck to you." And then somehow they obviously get that money later on. Now, apparently there was a group of, that I don't know specifically, was set up over in Brazil.
Okay. And
this was a massive, massive crime syndicate of identity fraud, trafficking, you name it. He was telling us, and it went to court, it got shut down. Wow. But it happens, it's there. And is that something we need to be careful of, you know, as businesses relying on these people? At the end of the day, they work for them. They're not necessarily dressed the smartest. They might, does that bother people though when they open the door and the food's just been brought to them and, the convenience box has been ticked? Me personally, if someone rocks up and they're looking a bit scruffy, I'd be like, oh.
I think for the most part, everybody, including me, including you, everybody is willing to look the other way for whatever meets their value needs. And
True.
And it depends what it is. It might not be your value need for this one, but it might be something else. And I think, and I don't want to be a hypocrite and say that I'm not part of this, because I probably am. But I've seen the cars that knock about, they're probably not insured. And if they are, they've definitely got the right insurance. They're all banged up. The food, I see it walk out sometimes, the bag's half open. We've got some solutions coming soon for this. The bag's half open, the zip's undone for the warm bag, the cool, whatever you call it, the heater bag. They just lob it in the boot. You see them, you glimpse at the boot, it's full of grime. It's, but a lot of the time, the chip shop owner, or whoever owner actually, the hot food business owner, whatever it is, cold food business owner, will just say, "It's left here. He doesn't work for me. He works for them. So I've done my bit." Yeah. And then on the other hand, and this is where we all turn our eyes away from the problem for the gig economy. On the other hand, the person at home is like, they'll be putting their England flag up and marching in London and screaming. But when the food turns up by, someone, they're like, "Oh yeah, thanks, mate." And I know, and this isn't to categorize
hypocrisy at its finest, isn't it?
But we're all like that, and I think as long as it doesn't affect us, we just carry on and look the other way, and we all do things like that, and And I remember someone in the fish and chip group not long ago said, "Oh, make sure you've got the right delivery insurance." No one cared. Like, no one bothered to comment on it. It was like, yeah, whatever. Like, so I would argue that 90% of vehicles that are out there are completely uninsured, including those bicycles that are pedal and pop or whatever you call them. Like, you know, and because for the most part, everyone's just looking the other way. And I do think it's going to be a serious problem at some point. We've written plenty on it. The government has been under immense pressure to fix the problem with these mobile phones. And also, I think they had to change a law recently to give access to the likes of Deliveroo and all these lot, the Home Office information, so they know where these people live, so not to deal with them.
Right.
And that was a law that had to be passed because obviously GDPR and all that stuff. And
yeah.
So I think at some point we're going to look back on this and say, blimey, I can't believe we did this. And I wonder if that's going to be when the advent of little helicopter deliveries are going to happen. What not the called? Drones. And we spoke about that on the podcast.
Well, it's there. The tech's there. It is happening, but obviously,
corner, isn't it? It's got to be.
Yeah, it's going to come for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, even drive-throughs changing.
Yeah.
Actually saw a video the other day of, I think it's Taco Bell in the States, fully automated. Not even a person handing it out. So it's it was a 5-lane bay actually.
Okay.
And it's all robotics, and it goes. I think McDonald's have trialed and tested this as well in one store in the States.
I think I've seen this one where it clips it onto a belt.
It clips it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's there. Taco Bell are doing it. It's happening. It is. It's the future.
Yeah,
it's going to happen.
I think it is. But you know what? I think this is where we win as an industry because, like you said, we are one of the few businesses left that actually are part of the local community who are going to say, "Hey, John, how's it going? Hey, how's Margaret? How's things?" You come in here because you do get a conversation. I liken it a bit similar to a barber's. You know, like you're going because, well, I know there's the odd customer that doesn't want to be spoken to, but for the most part, it's the experience. And I think,
yeah,
you know,
you've touched on a great point. Experience is the ultimate, because if it's positive, what is there to complain about? Why would you not go back? Why would you not want to do something again that was positive experience? And it's a natural thing. I think we just allow certain things we dwell on it too much sometimes. The negatives, and for me it's a stage. I say this to all the staff: you are on stage, you are an actor.
Yeah.
For the best part of it, don't take it literally and become. I don't want you to lose your personality, but you have to have a personality because you're in an open environment. Everyone can see you now. You might be engaged with the customer that's in front of you, and you might be taking the order off, but 5, 6, 7, 10 people deep in the queue might be just standing there glancing at everything and watching how you interact, and they might be going, "Oh, that was really good, positive, nice service, that was friendly."
Yeah.
But it comes to their turn, and it happens circumstantial. It doesn't flow the same. They're probably expecting, "Oh, I'm going to get this same service," so it's got to be consistent. But you're also on stage. Don't think that if you're not involved with what you're doing, it's like I tell you, there's a great guy that everyone should look at. I don't know if it's Table 21. I don't know if you've seen him. He does the most fantastic team briefs, and he really gets his team fired. It's an American restaurant, and he delivers this most empowering speech every shift service, does this brief, and that's what he's talking about. It's like you're on show. What you need to be moving, you need to be constantly doing something, and people pick up on that, and that buzz creates the hype and the positivity, and it's really hard to instill that into people and keep them that energy level constant, because that is, we all have a bad day.
Yeah.
Of course we do, but park it at the door, use your work to not even think about the issues you've walked away from or whatever it is. Be professional, come with a smile, and even if it's the most basic, just smile, be friendly, smile through it, act, put a face on.
I saw this video from like a mentor coach the other day, and it was about work, and it said there's this saying that says, "Oh, just what is it? Bring yourself to work," or something like that. And it said, "No, don't. Don't bring your problems to work. Get away from your problems. Don't bring your kids and your headaches to work." And that's the problem. And it said all the lines have been blurred between home and work. And it's saying like, oh, yeah, just bring all your things with you to work. And actually, no, park them outside. Say, I'm going to go in and I've got a 6-hour shift, 8-hour shift, whatever it is. Like, it's to not think about those things. You know, that's the point. Even good or bad, just come in and let's do what the goal is. And then by the end of it, you go home and then you think about those things. Just like you shouldn't take all your work. Imagine somebody saying, bring all your work home. Like, that's weird. Like, what? So why bring all your home to work? Like, so actually, this merging of the lives now, it's like, oh, I'm just going to take all my work problems and home problems to work. It's like, why? Like, keep them at home, you know. And I think that's now, we're getting to a point now where some of these cliches that have crept into the world are now starting to be sort of took apart. Like, you know, bring everything to work. No, I'd rather you left that at home. And then it's like, for another one, multitasking. Like, we're starting to figure out now that actually that's just not good. Like, just do the job at hand. Just focus on one job. And I think there's so many of these cliches now that we're trying to get out of the business. And I think it's because times are tighter out there. We've got to be leaner. We've got to be smarter. And we don't want to be dealing with like somebody who's got a 6-hour shift to do and is daydreaming about whatever's happened at home. And you think, and don't get me wrong, people have bad days and off days. But if you're constantly bringing that in, you're not doing work, are you? And no matter, you've got work to do.
The amount of times I see it and you get a sense of someone, you know, something's not right, and they might go a bit quiet, and it's like, well, what might I expect today from this person? Are they going to give everything that's, you know, themselves? I used to, when I used to do the briefs, match day briefs, delivering a brief up to 200 people at a time, and a morning game was the hardest one because energy levels are low. You know, people, some of them, you know, getting in at like 6 a.m. to set up for a midday game, and there's a lot of prep work goes involved in before the fans would arrive in all their lounges and into the stadium, and it's trying to lift and boost their energy levels first, just to get them to a state of mind that they realise, well, actually, I've got a task in hand in front of me, and then the next minute when we open them doors, we've got, you know, 60,000 people walking through, and I've got something to do and be part of this. And it's different when you're delivering something to a bigger team. It's like, you know, in a big herd, there's always one leader, and the rest will look at the leader for the next, you know, step or task or want some kind of direction from that. When you're in a smaller group, though, I think it's a lot easier for people to just go into their shell, because it's, oh, I know you, you know me, and that's it, I'll just be me. But everyone gets an energy off everyone else, and I think the bigger the team, it does elevate, because someone can boost you and go, come on, you know. But you've got to get those people through the door who are like-minded like that, who can look at someone and go, oh, what's up today, you know. And I've had it, and you go, are you identifying that? And if you see someone's having you know what, let's not, well, you shouldn't be doing this today. You do something else, and just, you know, make them, and then sit down and have that conversation after and go, what's bothering you? Is there something I need to know? And you don't know what it might be. And if it's something silly and pathetic, well, you know, then you know where to have a bit more of a stern conversation and just say, look, then that's not acceptable. It's not my problem, then you're here to do your job. But also, if it's a personal thing or there's something that's really bothering them, understand it, you know. It's like last on the weekend, two of my staff, lovely girls, one's decided to dye her hair over the weekend, and it was almost monkey see, monkey do. So the following weekend, she's gone, I'll come round and I'll do yours. So it's gone horribly wrong still. Like, so she came in for the morning shift, and she's come in, not to rip her, but she's like, oh my God, you know, you won't believe what happened to such and such today. I was like, what's happened? Is she okay? Because I was expecting in for a shift in the evening. So she said, we dyed her hair last night and it's gone wrong. It's not come out the way it should have.
Oh dear.
I was like, oh God. So she goes, she's trying to fix it now. And I think she made it a bit worse. And she's come in and bless her, like I looked at her and I didn't want to say anything. Deep down, I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, what have you done? And I could tell she was upset. And I said to her, look, don't worry about it. And before I could say anything to her to try and fix the problem, she was very conscious of it. I said to her, look, I'll give you one of these. I'll give you, change your hat, because they wear like the what they call them. Not a baseball cap, it's like a school cap.
Okay.
But it was still visible. Yeah. I said, look, I'll give you a baseball cap, tie your hair in a bun, so it's not coming out of the back of the hole. And I said, it will cover up, it's fine. And she's like, oh, thank you so much. She goes, now I feel a lot better. I was like, but it's identifying, it's a little thing. Obviously, it was visual. You could see it. But again, it's just understanding people, I think. You just got to be a little bit,
Absolutely. Managing is hard. In the true sense of the word, managing. I don't mean, saying that someone's a manager because they fry. I mean, actually managing staff is hard. And I think that's one thing my brother-in-law taught me, that, we think that managing people is just an elevated job role, but it's not. The title, the clue is in the name, managing. So yeah, well, I want to move on though, because and I tell you why, because I've got so many notes and we've barely touched on. We've not gone into depth into as much as I'd like, and not that it's a bad thing, but I think what I'm going to say right now is that I think we're going to have to get you back before Christmas. I've said it well earlier than I thought I would. I knew this would go well, but there's just a lot I want to unpack with you on later ones, but on the next episode. But what I'd like to touch on now, just briefly, is data. Very quickly, tell me about CRAM. Yeah, and the acronym. I'm aware of CRM. I use that a lot in my business. And then I remember you wrote an article for our trade talks, and I remember you writing CRAM and me coming back to you and saying, did you mean CRM? And you were like, no, CRAM. And I was like, okay, great. So tell us, just give us a little bit an overview. Let's not go too deep, because I want to focus on this again in the next episode. But tell us a little bit about what you're trying to do with all this data that's coming at you from whether it's aggregators, whether it's your own systems, and just being digital in the digital world.
Yeah, so obviously a lot of the systems now can give you back office analytics. They'll give you the basic stuff. So, you can pull your data from number of sales per product, your average spend. That's the basics, but then it's what you're doing with the data and how you're using it. So, for example, I don't know, one thing, I'll try and give it as an example form that people can understand how to use it then. It's all good saying, I know I sell, 200 of these in this time frame at this price. Great. Okay. So, but then you got to start asking yourself questions of who, what, when, where, and how. That's how I break it down. So obviously I've got a campaign, say I will look at what it is I'm trying to achieve. So I'll look at the data first, and what we'll crunch who was walking in at that point, at what time. So I've answered two of the questions there straight away. And then I'm looking at, so bear in mind, as well as having the data, it's important that you are able to connect the dots, as in, who your customers are specifically. And obviously it's a habit. If you're in the store, it's very difficult to know certain people, because obviously you need to know a name or a specific profile about them. So by collecting the data, what we've tried to do now is push everyone to sign up to a scheme that we set up for birthdays. So we say, sign up to our mailing list and you'll get free fish and chips on your birthday. That's the opening the door, and we need to get them through the door, just so I can now have access to them to have the data. Now it's a clever way to allow them to accept notification, because a lot of them will opt out because they feel like they might get spammed, or that there'll be too much marketing coming through like on an email or a text. I don't do that heavily, but I target it, and this is where this cram comes into play. So if I had a customer who I know comes in on average twice a month, and he has the same set two meals every single time, that's great. I know he's come in, he's satisfying his needs, he likes what he likes. But this customer, I look at him and go, well, yeah, I can see now from my data, he spends an average of, I don't know, £25, say, each time he visits a store. What can I do to extract a little bit more out of him, but not in a way where I'm just wanting to get his money? So, for example, I might send him now, because I've got the data that I don't know. He says he has haddock and chips every single visit. Is it because he specifically likes the haddock? Obviously he does, because he has it regularly. Why isn't he not opting to have something else? And why is it just he has that set? Is it a habit? So I can pull the data in now that I've got his name, his number, and I can associate it to his account. I'll go, okay, let's send Tony an email. I can then get an actual direct survey off him, ask him specific questions about his habit of having haddock. Oh, have you tried the cod? Have you tried the place before? Or I tell you what, here's a voucher, small discount on this item that I might want to try and push. And I'll test that with value customers, and customers will know who, you see regularly, who will give you the feedback. So by collecting the data, it's all good and having it, but it's what you're doing with it. So we would target customers, say, who haven't visited for, say, 3 weeks. And we'll give them a little nudge and go, here's a little intro. You've got 4 or 5 days to use it. But these are the things that I know you like because I've now got your data. So it's not saying, oh, here's a spam fritter, something that's not a popular item. Not everyone eats spam. I know it's not going to go down well, and he probably won't come back through the door because I sent him a voucher for a free spam or whatever. So it's just it takes time to build up the correlations between customers, understanding your data, and again, you need to have the tools to be able to collect the data. So just to give everyone an example, we use ICR as an EPOS, which does a hell of a lot of data on its own. We run it through QuickServe pre-day for our online in-store collection, and then we link that into TalkBox. So TalkBox is the output. It allows us to do the communication back and target it through the QuickServe system and that's another way of driving the traffic back to having your own store running the online. So for us, again, I think it's knowing the business as well, and that shop and how it operates. Since COVID, probably say about 80% of the customers who jumped on using online because they had to have stuck with online. You still get the walk-in customers, but what we do is prioritize the collection because it is the higher volume of where the orders have come from. So we do lose the customers who choose to walk in. And something I've got on the pipeline at the moment, which I want to talk about, which goes on to about using it AI. I think there's a way to not lose your customer who was a walk-in to collect the data, because you don't necessarily get it linked to their account. Whereas if they do everything online and through the digital platform, it's building all that data.
Could you give, as a thought process, could you give your customers that are coming in, walking through the door, a membership card? I don't know how would you use that on the till or something, but they can accumulate points, or they could,
Yeah, you can. There is features out there that can be done. But the issue you have, unless you've got So for me, I've chosen to stick with quick serve system because it's got a lot more features. ICR have their own version of it, but that is not as in depth as quick serve.
Okay.
And I can't link that then into TalkBox because those systems don't talk to each other otherwise. That's the limitation of ICR. They kind of, and they've got their own marketing tool.
Like any software, it's better in some parts and worse in others. And on the other side, it's better in parts. And you have to take a value decision to see what's best for you.
Yeah. So it does come at a cost, but the return on investment I get, I can see. So I think it's always important when you do a campaign, it's like pushing out an offer or some kind of deal for a customer, but it's how you track it and knowing that particular campaign that you do works. Does it actually drive your business in? So how do you record it? So it's always important to have it tagged or filtered back to you, because how do you know it ever worked? I could go and stick 1,000 leaflets on a car park in all the cars saying, oh, intro offer 10%, sign up now, use our online system. But how do I know that the customer used that particular thing? So you need to see what works for you as a shop.
I remember back in the day when we just did marketing, like, paper marketing, print marketing, we'd always make it something redeemable that needed an address and a name. And then, and it'd just be like they'd bring it in and say, oh, I want my half-price chips, or I want my fish, whatever it is. And you'd say, okay, can you just fill out the coupon? And we'd put it in the till. And then you'd at least cross-reference it because you'd know. And you'd say, where did you see this? And so on. So, you need to be doing that on a digital level too, really. So you know where, otherwise you don't know where people are coming from.
Yeah. Once it's set up, I mean, it does take the intro bit of the, building it. It does take time. But you have to start somewhere. You do have to start somewhere. Not only, I mean, if you just push the analytics side away from it at the minute, operationally in your store, it allows you to do a number of things. It speeds up your service, obviously. The AI side, which I'd like to see happen, which I've got someone looking into at the minute, is your loyalty for the loyalty side, or at least the membership, or whatever title you want to give it, is if you're a walking customer, painting the scenario, say you walk into my store and you've got your card, you would force the habit and you touch some NFC pad or something, and then that allows the server to then see on the till system your Stelios account. On one side, you'd have a list of all your previous products you've bought, and what it allows you to then do is customize and tailor your experience. I know we do it now. You probably know most of your customers' orders 2 fish, 1 chips, a curry, or whatever. They have their patterns. Walking customers stick to patterns, and they'll only buy what they came in for, either because they've got a set number of dinero in the pocket and they go, I've got 20 quid and that's what I'm buying, or I've come in with the right money because that's what I have every week.
Or could it be, just to go full circle, could it be habits?
Habits. Yeah,
could it
totally.
be, I've just been swimming, I'm going home, having a fish and chips with the wife. And
So you touched on that. I've got one customer who comes in every Friday. He has a haddock dinner. He upgrades his peas to a bigger pot, and he has an extra portion of chips. So for him, having seen that regularly every week, 6 o'clock on the dot, he's in the shop. But he only has it on a Friday. Okay, so he'll come in midweek, and I know his go-to is a half rice chips with curry.
Okay.
And I said to him, Steve, why do you only have that on this day and why that? He goes, habit. That's what I do. Okay. I finish work, I come here, I go there. That's what my wife wants. We don't cook what he fancies. Okay, Sam, but I know that. But I've asked the question, Steve will never order online because he's not the guy or the type of guy who would use a digital platform. So I'm missing out on his data. But let's just say, for example, you've walked in and I've got a list of all of your previous products that you've liked and bought. And now it's counting, oh, you've had haddock 20 times, but you've only had plaice twice. Okay, do you not fancy a plaice today? Or you can utilize that at your disposal there and then live, and the customer realizes. So one thing that we do, which obviously it's nothing new, Starbucks, you go coffee, what's your name, end of the counter, you get your name called out in whatever pronunciation they can, and then you walk away. It's personal, and that's the bit which, for me, that's where customer service is. Yeah. That's the game changer. If you've got personal interaction with your customer, and it could just be the simplest thing, and you might not even have to. Just the fact that you go, "Hi, Stel, you're right." That is it. It's you're on the hook, aren't you? And that's what keeps you going back, because you go, "Well, he knows me." But then it's building that rapport, and it's always getting the staff to know when to chat to them, not when to chat to them.
Yeah, and there's an art in knowing when a customer doesn't want to be spoken to, isn't there?
Yeah. And even answering the phone, because we've got that data, and obviously ID callers, that's nothing new. That's been around for years. But quite often or not, because you can get that data, one of our things is when you ring the shop is not to go, "Oh, hello, who's a Pisces speaking to whoever," is, "Oh, hi, John, you're right. It's Cos here."
Sound familiar.
Straight away, and they're going, "How did you know it was me?" "Oh, I could just tell by your voice, Olivia. You never miss a voice." You know what I mean? It's just there's ways to.
Talking of all this technology, can you understand how some of the older people in the industry just think, you know what, I fucking missed opening the door and customers just coming in, queuing up, chatting, of course. But none of this social media malarkey, none of this bloody this and people ringing me. Like, I just want to, I can see how there's that fondness for that, because I like this too. Don't get me wrong. I like data. I swim in it. But like, I can also see how I just would love to go back to common sense to some degree too. Like to have a takeaway, or restaurant, whichever it is, and people just keep coming in, and I just, "Oh, how you doing, John? How's it going? Here, I'll have this, thanks, mate." And just there's an appeal to that, isn't there, to some degree? Like I can see if you're simple, sort of 50 odd years old and you've been doing it for 20 odd years, and listening to what you're saying right now, they're thinking, "Oh, you know what? Maybe it's time I just fucking settle up." Like, but I can see someone in their 20s being, "Yeah, I could do that." Like,
my dad is the perfect example of that. I think he might have even told you when you came down. His answer is, "I'll get a baseball bat and I'll fucking smash that."
Yeah, it's not overly helpful, is it? But
no, it's not, and it's alien to him. It's just something that I get it. It's it's, but you don't need to feel. I think as an owner, for those who don't have it, or where do I go? I won't understand it.
I think
you're employing people, so there will be someone that you can employ, at least for a little part of it. If you said to them, "Listen, I want you to be responsible for this," they'll understand it better than you. Doesn't necessarily mean that, okay, you need to understand it. I get it. But as an owner, but pass that on to someone to do, like make them be part of it as well. And maybe they're the people that you delegate out to and train the rest of the team to be able to do that. And if that's the cost of doing it, doesn't always have to be on you as a business owner to deal with something, and that's
delegate. No, absolutely.
And a lot of people don't do it. So I've seen that.
We've covered a lot of ground, and I want to wrap this up because this has become a 2-hour pod, which is fine by me. But I don't want it to become a 4-hour pod. And I like to listen, and I also like to talk, which is probably half the problem. What I'd like to finish on is just a few things, and we'll keep these brief, and we can always touch back on them later as a recap. But what do you think? Because we've spoke about lots of positives, we spoke about the past, but what do you think are like the biggest threats facing the industry, would you say?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the obvious one at the moment is fish stocks. Mm-hmm. It is very, very critical. the cost obviously going up, and staffing. I think that's the two key things at the moment which we all need to really be efficient with, because it can make and break you at the end of the day. Don't be scared to keep the good ones that you've got, and if that means pay rising them, keep them. Because one thing I think, if we're all struggling for recruitment at the minute and staffing, which I know we are at the minute, to be honest, is you risk overloading the ones who are there, and then it becomes tedious and horrible, and then you might end up losing them. Obviously, fish is an issue. What I would like to see as an industry, I know it won't happen, it's a very idealistic approach. I would like to see the yield that we offer be reduced. So, take large off your menu. Take it off your menu. Okay, stop trying to offer this overloaded portion, high value for money on your menu, because the reality will kick in that if there is no fish coming through, what are we all going to do? Yeah. And if you can offer when I say rationed, I don't mean reduce your portion size, still offer a smaller version, and you limit it and you say, look, this is the severity of it. So I've actually been experimenting this last 2 weeks, and it's because I haven't been getting enough volume of cod and haddock that I would normally take. So like last week, I had to buy a bit more haddock than cod. Now, cod's our go-to, but I've been turning it off. I've been offline, turning it off and going, we've only got this today online. I'm still offering you a piece of fish. Mm-hmm. This is what we've got. I know not necessarily you'll want to have it, but when the customer comes in and explains it, and we do put a notification online saying, due to the crisis at the moment, this is what we've got available. And I haven't had one complaint. Okay. Not one complaint. It was an interesting thing to look on and go, well, do you put something on your menu that you'll never sell just to steer them to the other products? Possibly. And just say, sorry, it's run out today. Yeah, this is what we've got, and this is the size.
There's some
and that's
smart
it.
menu engineering that you can do. Absolutely, we've written about some of it, mostly about prices. But but I tell you what's interesting. I saw a shop the other day, like doing these Facebook videos, and they're enjoyable videos for the most part. And the lady was cutting fish, and it must have been it was 32 plus cod that she'd cut into 12 to 14 ounce. It was a huge, hefty, heavy loin. And then out of curiosity, I sent it to a friend, and he sent me a photo of their menu price, and it was $7.80. And I was thinking, whoa, she is losing money hand over fist. And I just, but
that's a scary thought, that stuff, because
it's mental. It is mental.
I do. I mean, if you go as a culinary dish, anything gastronomic in a restaurant is pretty much standardized to a degree, weights and measures. A small portion of a cod and chips or haddock and chips, be it a 4 to 5 ounce fillet, say, with chips, what on average now it's probably going to be hitting around about £8 mark, £8.50, just as an average. That is suffice for any human being to consume and to be satisfied, as far as I'm concerned. I genuinely do believe that. So people obviously want big, they want, big appetites. I understand that, but sorry. I mean, do you go to a McDonald's and eat a burger and go, I'm full? Really, you need two. But the size is it a way to engineer steering people to buy double of the small, which is actually, it's beneficial for us as business fish and chip shop operators that there's a better margin in a smaller piece than there is a large one. And that's where I go with the yield. Let's reduce the yield. Let's increase the yield by reducing it in the smaller portion and offering, and go back to what it was years ago. If you go back to the 60s, 70s.
That does need a collective effort, though. It's risky to go it alone, isn't it?
It is. But I think
if you're next to that person in Coventry, she would either argue that she's smaller than everybody else, or people around her would argue that they're smaller than her. And so there's always going to be a bit of a chicken and egg situation. The truth is, hardly anybody is measuring their product. Hardly anybody. So yeah, that makes things difficult in itself. Like, one guy rang me and he was, I've been trying to use your calculators, but they don't make sense. And I was like, okay, why? And we went through it, and I was like, what price are you paying for fish? And he's like, well, I don't know. I was like, okay, well, we need that number. So let's start with that. He goes fishing, calls me back. He goes, right, I've got it now. Okay, great. So we put that number in. Okay, well, what size fish is it? What weight is it? Or, what case is the box? Oh, well, 1 minute, I'll go back. Come back. So look, just get all the information. Here's what I'm going to need. Come back to me. He comes back. And I was like, how many fillets do you get? I don't know. Do you know roughly what weight it is? No. I said, okay, well, this is why the calculator's not working, because you're not inputting anything. And I wasn't trying to make fun. I think he got a little exasperated. Yeah. But I just explained to him that just one day, just spend an hour doing this, yeah, and then it'll become easier, and then it'll become 2 minutes, and then it'll become 30 seconds. And he rang me about a month later, and he said initially he was pissed off with me, and then he did it, and he gets it now. And he's got some work to do, and he's been doing it. He's been following the work, and he said, and now he's set a plan for the next 6 months to trim by 2 ounces. And I said, look, even if it was an ounce over 6 months, that's a start. Don't panic, people. I said, the fact, he goes, I need to act. I said, no, you don't. I said, well, no, you do. But I said, you don't need to overreact. I said, you've been doing it like this for so long without knowing.
Needs to be gradual. Yeah.
Just because you now know doesn't mean you need to overreact and piss everyone off. So just go slow. 1 ounce, 6 months. Or introduce another smaller portion as well, as part of a meal deal. And, he's considering those things. But I can see how people then, once the cloud is lifted, they're like, yeah, I've got to do it, I've got to do everything now. And then you end up being small portion and expensive, and then customers get peed off. So you've got to really be careful, haven't you?
Yeah, price it accordingly for sure. If it's a small portion, you're not going to keep the price at whatever. But again, I think, look at your packaging, the size of packaging that you can buy. There is quite a lot of variation of what someone might say is a medium box. Yeah. Look at that. Honestly, I've got a company who, I'm not joking, we took 5 millimeters off the medium sized box. Well, that 5 millimeters in volume is huge. It's, and it's just being a little bit smart, bit savvy there, just chipping away. And it's like, I have this argument when I fillet the fish, and when my dad occasionally comes in and he fillets the fish, and I'm like, you've got to realise it's got to fit in the box. Yeah. The box will still look full. So again, it's perception and visually how it looks.
I remember going to a shop recently, and he had a metal ruler, and he had it sort of screwed into the chopping board, and he had marks on it, so he knew exactly roughly what length he was aiming for the box. But then you see some old school fish cutters that they just do it blind. Yeah
I mean, I do it blind now. I know just from his experience. I've seen some videos online, people cutting fish, and I'm going, Jesus, could have got you another 3-4 fillets out of that piece there, just by cutting it different. I mean, again, that's, it's experience. It's not to say I'm better than anyone else or whatever. It's just, you see it, and there is so many things there where people, one of the things that does really do my head in, and I feel like commenting back, I just thought, forget it, don't make yourself a dick, is on the groups, people going, what should I sell? What do you think I should sell this for?
Yeah.
And it's like, you can only answer that question.
What is this?
Yeah. Your overheads are totally different to mine. You're in a different area to me. You probably package it different to me or whoever else. You cannot copy and paste, because he's doing it down the road for 5-6 quid, I've got to do it for 5-6 quid. Are you like that? It's honestly, it's mind-boggling. There's people out there that run the businesses like that, and then they cry when they struggle because it's not working. It's like,
we're going to end up talking about him again. We mentioned him at the beginning, and I'm going to mention him at the end. But Mark Drummond again. I remember a while ago someone put on, "Oh, how much you charge for fish and chips?" and he put on his price, and like there was about 3 or 4 comments under it saying, "You can't make money at that." And I know his margin. He tells me, we chat about it all the time. And he puts under there, he actually put his margin. He goes, "Well, actually, this is the margin."
Yeah.
"Well, how'd you do that? How'd you do that?" And he goes, "I count, I cut, the profit is made on the chopping board, sales are made when I'm open." And people just couldn't comprehend it. They were like, "Well, you must be doing something different or wrong." And he's like, No, this is right. And he's quite forceful like that. And he does know his numbers in and out. And I think the problem is that, like anything online, you've got people that have never measured anything once and just call out the people that measure lots. And I think, there's a lot to be said about those people that just quietly, confidently keep running their business. And
I think it's laziness, Stel, to be honest.
Yeah, but
I think
guess
there's a lot
it's
of
all
laziness.
those years, and I think I've touched on it with you, and I've touched on it with others, but all those years of it being a cash business, and it allowed you to be able to make those sort of mistakes, because whatever you say,
I see where you go.
Yeah, there was a lot of leeway.
Yeah.
My dad's generation, your dad's generation, they didn't think about any of what we're talking about right now. If my dad and your dad listened to this, and my dad's had a stroke, and he'd probably want to listen to something different, but even he'd listen to me thinking, "What a load of tosh! Open a shop and just do what I did," and but that don't exist no more. And I think and whereas, but it was a different times, and labour cost a lot less, and stock cost a lot less.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there was a lot more forgiveness, whereas today there isn't.
It's actually a lot of newer costs completely appeared in the business that we never had. 20, internet, paying internet subscription for your IT, all that. It just never existed. It was a till, you bought it worked, a calculator. That's it. Yeah. Job done. No ongoing costs. Whereas obviously everything's
I remember years ago we put credit card machines in years ago. We didn't use them a lot. We had them, but they didn't get used a lot. And I remember family members saying how frivolous they were. "We got that for? It's stupid. Don't want that." And we were like, "Yeah, but customers spend more on it." "I won't get it." Yeah, and now obviously it's completely flipped. Back then it was 1% of chip shops. Now it's like 99% of chip shops. And the whole consumer landscape's changed. But yeah, I think this is where a lot of these mistakes were happening, and you just can't make them anymore. You can't afford to make them no more. You can't afford to give a 12-ounce fish when you've only probably factored in for an 8-ounce fish. So yeah.
Not to blame that generation, but those who probably did operate like that are probably the reason why the value of fish and chips has not been kept in line with what it should be.
Possibly.
Because
possibly.
I'll do it a bit cheaper because there's a little bit more leeway. And they've not really valued the value of what it is. And now that perception of fish and chips used to be a cheap man's dinner, which it isn't anymore, I think we've lost that as an industry.
Yeah, you're probably right.
In there, and that's a real driving factor. And that I think if you're in that role, you're in that, in that sort of operation still, I hate to say it, but the next 3 or 4 years might not be there for you.
Yeah, and this is something I've been talking about a lot lately, and that's atrophy. And that's business atrophy mostly, not bodily atrophy. And unfortunately, when the governments do what they do, and you've been running a business, whichever business, by the way, it's not just a chip shop, any business, if you've been running it a way that maybe was fine in the 80s and 90s, but that business model has completely shifted and changed, then atrophy will probably happen. And it means that the dead wood in the industry, whatever industry, will fall by the wayside. And it doesn't mean it has to happen. It means you can see what's coming and try and work at it and fix the problems within your business. And that's hard. Like, I don't want to act like it's easy. Like it's everything we've discussed and more. And to sit down and swallow that pain and say, I need to make these changes. And then the fear of saying, well, if I change this, then John and Margaret might not come in tomorrow, because most chip shop owners are at the coalface, not like Chinese takeaways that are behind the door, or an Indian takeaway where the owner's not there, is out the back. And again, chip shops, usually the nature of the beast is that they're at the front, and a customer will call them out on something, and it is embarrassing. It's not nice. And so yeah, when you're faced with less customers, no customers, you sort of shit yourself, and it hurts when you make those decisions. But when I watch Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares a lot, they're faced with that, and he'll say you've got to think past that. You've got to think about not the 2 that you might lose, but the 100 you might gain.
And
I think
absolutely.
That's so important. I really do. And I know, again, that's easier said than done. I get it completely. But at the same time, if you can go get a job working somewhere else where you've not got to think about VAT, tax, staff wages, PAYE, and be left with something at the end of the week, then maybe that's also a good thing to do too. And, but happiness is key, not being stressed, not being, sick
Absolutely.
of being at work. But I'm going to pack this one in now because we've gone 2 hours in even. And I've really enjoyed it. I could talk to you for another 2 hours, except for the fact that I need to pop to the men's. But I could talk for hours, and I think we will get you back on. I think definitely before Christmas, if not.
Yeah, I'd love to. It'd be great. It's been a pleasure.
It's good just to sometimes, I know some people look at it and say 2 hours, but these are sometimes the best conversations because you unpack loads without any pressures. But I've still got all my notes, which I'm going to have to use on the next one. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, I'd be glad to come back.
I want to say thanks for your contributions as well to the Trade Talk articles as well, because the 2 articles have been great. Loads of feedback on them. People I think they like to look at what others have got to say, and I think you've come from a completely different angle. So if anybody hasn't listened to those, they should go and read those. Sorry, listened. If anybody listening hasn't read those, then go find them. But yeah, they were good too. Yeah,
I'd be glad to hear if anyone wants to get in contact as well. Stel, either ask through Stel, pass the number on, and then.
Well,
feel free if you want to talk to it
anyway.
a bit more.
We'll tag you on Facebook.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, happy to help. I've got another one that we'll discuss it on the next one.
Sounds good.
I think it's quite an interesting.
I think there's a lot because I think you're happy to challenge me and I'm happy to challenge you, and we're happy to break those thoughts out, which means that conversations last longer. And we've got nothing but time, just not today. We'll get it done another time.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks for having us,
Have a great one, Cos. And that's a wrap with Cos Michael from Pisces in Heswall. It's always an absolute pleasure having these conversations with people that genuinely care about the industry. People like Cos who keep pushing things forward while staying true to their roots. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you're on the Ceres mailing list. We've got loads of competitions coming up, offers and festive surprises coming up. It's the easiest way to stay in the loop. As always, Ceres is here to help your business thrive with great products, proper support and real conversations. And until next time, take care and thank you so much for listening.